friends, hi, welcome to day 38. I hope you're well and having a good week so far. It's nearly Friday. Today, let's just look in a little bit of detail, if you like, at Exodus, our Exodus reading. And today we see God giving the Ten Commandments, if you like, giving the law to the Israelites. And if we start off, let's look at chapter 19, verses 4 and 5. God basically says to the people, look, you've seen what I've done to the Egyptians, you've seen what I've done for you. And so now do as I say, and you will be my treasured possessions. And so God makes his covenant with them. And so in verse 8, they say, okay, yep, we'll do that. Check out verse 12. God then says to Moses to put up a fence around the mountain where Moses goes to meet with God to stop people trying to come close to the mountain and to see God. Saying that if they do, then they'll be killed. Friends, we cannot stand before God in our own strength or by our own goodness. That's basically what that is about. And so on into chapter 20, when the commandments are given, and the commandments are split into two sections, or two tables, as they're sometimes known. And so the first four commandments, sometimes known, if you like, as the first table, is speaking about our duty to God. And so the first commandment, which says you shall have no other gods before me, that's looking at the object of our worship and saying that we're to worship God and only God. Now today people put a lot of things before God, whether that's money, whether it's success or pleasure or just ourselves, and that's wrong. God needs to be first, and he needs to be our number one priority. Second commandment about not making an image of God. That's about the way we worship, and not making an image of God or no human constructs, if you like, to help us worship God, whether that's an idol or an icon or trying to draw to represent God. We can't do it. And that can be a little bit worrying in some parts of the church today, where we just see so many icons and paintings and pictures of God, or sculptures of God or of Jesus, and that can be misleading. But also, what strikes me today is what mental image, what picture can we build up sometimes in our mind of God? You know, sometimes it's easy to picture, if you like, the gentle Jesus, meek and mild, or just this loving side of God, which is definitely true. But we can sometimes build up that picture and neglect the other side of God, the power, if you like, the wrath, the justice. And I think this commandment can be warning against that as well. Let's not be building up kind of a bias or a false picture of God. Let's be making sure that the images that we build up of God in our mind are accurate. Thirdly, the third commandment, looking at not misusing the name of God, is about our manner of worship. When we worship God, it needs to be reverent, it needs to be serious. None of this business of making false oaths or swearing or taking God's name in vain. That's a no-go. And then fourthly, the importance of our worship. It looks about the need for a Sabbath, and so we prioritise time to have a day to rest and to worship. And then the other 6 commandments, if you like, the second table, speak of our duty to ourselves and to each other. If you like, explaining the commandment to love your neighbour as yourself. And so the 5th commandment explains the duty that we have to our relations and our conduct towards them. If you like, obedience to authority. Friends, we're here because of other people, whether it's our parents, whether it's people that are above us in authority, and so we need to respect that. 6th commandment about not murdering is hopefully self-explanatory, but it includes anything that can lead us to cause the loss of somebody else's life. And so remember, Jesus says that even anger is like murdering in our hearts. 7th commandment about adultery. It's not just bad for us to end a life, but it's wrong to, if you like, defile life as well. And so adultery includes anything that pollutes our minds or causes us to lust. And it's not just about physically going out and sleeping with someone. If I so much as look at somebody with lust that isn't my wife. Jesus says I've committed adultery with them already in my heart, regardless of whether I then pursue them and sleep with them. Just the looking at somebody, what goes on in our minds, in our hearts, is just as much adultery. And then on number 8 talks about not stealing, and that's just respect for others' property. Don't take what is rightfully somebody else's. But it doesn't just apply to me stealing a car or a watch from somebody, but it might also include how accurately I fill in my tax return, or companies that fraudulently make money from other companies, or maybe even governments that unjustly, squeeze the poor. And then the 9th commandment about not giving false testimony about our neighbour. Let's not be lying about someone to damage their reputation. Things like slander, backbiting, gossip, where we set out, to boost up our reputation at the expense of somebody else's. And often we see the media, they like to do that. If you think of court cases where the media have made up their minds, often before the jury, before a case is decided, the media have put out a picture of somebody, and even if that person then is pronounced innocent, people can have a damaged picture of that person because of what has been put out in the media. And sadly, things like gossip and backbiting, we see it in the church sometimes too, and that's not good. But then the last commandment, you shall not covet your neighbour's house or wife or things like that. The last commandment gets to the root of so many of the earlier problems. Even if we take the other commandments at face value and say, okay, I've never murdered, I've never committed adultery, all of us, I think, stumble at this one. Sometimes we want what we can't have, or what we shouldn't have, or what we think we need. There's this picture that the grass is always greener on the other side. And it can lead to jealousy, it can lead to anger, it can lead to theft, and it can lead to adultery. And friends, we need to be really careful to avoid that. These commandments are more than, just 10 rules for an easy life, or like the rules at school where they used to say do what you like but just keep these basic rules. The 10 commandments affect everything that we do and the way that we live. And so it's surprising, I think, that the Pharisees in Jesus' time make out that they've got it sorted and that they keep all the commandments. And then Jesus just finds it so easy to point out where they fall short. Over the next couple of chapters, or in our readings up until Friday, God goes into more detail about these commandments and expanding on the laws given. And so we're going to look into them a little bit more over the next couple of days. But let's leave it there for today. You've heard enough from me, so enjoy your day, and I'll see you tomorrow. God bless.